In honor of Oscar week, I've decided to do a movie review of every single movie that I saw over the past year. Now, typically, I would usually do this movie in a more of a long-form live-action format where I would review around 52 or more movies, but I didn't get to see as many this year, and I felt like it was a down year for movies as a whole. So without further ado, my 38 movies that I saw during the year of 2016, from the bottom to the top, let's go. Divergent Allegiant, not the last in the book series, but the last in the movies because it was that shitty. Hardcore Henry, not even good by YouTube standards anymore, dragged on, made you not care. Some interesting aspects, and the action was alright and shot very, very uniquely, but overall just didn't seem like a cohesive film. Secret Life of Pets, let's see what happens when we can just rewrite Toy Stories 1 and 2 with a bunch of dogs and make it the most boring thing ever. Jason Bourne, trying to rewrite the mistakes of Bourne Legacy, they end up having as much amnesia as Jason Bourne themselves in that they can't remember how to make a good Jason Bourne movie, but they remember that you just have to make 1,000 cuts in a single second. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows. Needless to say, this one should have stayed in the shadows for its lack of action and lack of originality, as guess what? Raphael and Leonardo get in an argument. Oh my god, can they reconcile and win the day? X-Men Apocalypse, not the best of the X-Men films this year, where Deadpool is breaking the fourth wall. The one time X-Men Apocalypse broke the fourth wall is when they mentioned correctly that the third one is always the worst, and after two fantastic X-Men movies, Apocalypse was a dud. Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. Interesting plot, deviated from the book quite a lot, but overall just took a giant shit in the last 20 minutes after what was before then a pretty decent film. Keanu. When you try to make a spoof off of one specific film, it really limits what you can do, but Key and Peele gave us a few laughs in the movie, but overall was just very forgettable. Batman the Killing Joke, a fantastic graphic novel finally getting the animated attention that it deserves, when they totally just throw the first 25 minutes away with some weird shit that shouldn't have happened, and overall just kind of felt rushed and bland. Independence Day Resurgence, not as shitty as you would think, obviously not as memorable as the original, and you probably wouldn't be able to name a single character from this film outside of David's dad, which they focused on for some reason for almost a third of the film, but overall not terrible for a shitty summer blockbuster. Sing, interesting attempts to make you dislike all of the characters in the movie, and for the most part, it's successful. Ghostbusters, not as bad as the internet really wants you to believe, but still really bad. Suicide Squad. The very first trailer showed at Comic-Con painted a beautiful picture of a film that could have been. Instead, all of the executives came on board and said, we need to make it just like Guardians of the Galaxy, so let's make all the music from the 80s and put as many pop culture references as an episode of South Park and take what is supposed to be a movie about a bunch of murderers and make them about as interesting as a bunch of characters from South Park. Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice. There's a reason why Marvel took 5 movies before the Avengers came out, and they tried to pack as much of that backstory in one film, rushed everything, gave us the weirdest Lex Luthor ever, which is saying something because every on-screen Lex Luthor has been shitty. Fun fact, the Martha being the name of both of their moms is actually totally fine, and people are shitting on it for no real reason. Inferno, the third of the Robert Langdon movies, and the worst one by far. Star Trek Beyond, by no means felt like an actual Star Trek movie, just a really long episode of the series. The Legend of Tarzan. People didn't like this film because of how different it was than all the other adaptations of the character, but that actually kind of separated it. It had a ton of mistakes, some decent scenes, but overall was just kind of okay. The Jungle Book. Pretty decent movie. Graphics were okay. Some of the animals looked weird compared to one another, but I have no idea how they're going to get a sequel out of this. Doctor Strange, continuing a trend of solo Marvel movies that are just okay to pretty decent. Kubo and the Two Strings. Everyone loves Laika and stop motion, had a really good beginning, dwindled in the middle, but ended relatively strongly. Special Correspondence. If you like Ricky Gervais humor, you've come to the right spot because this movie takes so many twists and turns, it's honestly impressive. Laser Team. Independent film on a relatively small budget, but was able to squeeze as many laughs out of it as possible, and that's what you want from this kind of movie. The Nice Guys, a very well-written film that allows the two main leads to play off each other very nicely, as well as some really punishing scenes that are just a little more honest than what we're used to. Captain America Civil War. Honestly, it's Avengers 2.5, but in that same vein, was really the best faithful adaptation from how a comic book should feel from one hero's perspective while still incorporating the rest of that universe. Sully. Tom Hanks playing a role that is specifically made for Tom Hanks, and that's always a good thing. Deadpool. Exactly what you should get when you translate a character from a comic book to the movie without studio executives muddying the waters. Passengers. Don't read the bad reviews, it's actually as good as you think it should be with the 2 lead roles. 10 Cloverfield Lane, aka Suspense, the movie, and it was handled fantastically. Looking forward to more coming out of the Cloverfield universe. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. How do you make 5 movies out of a textbook from a fictional universe? Well, somehow you did it and you made it fantastic and made me really look forward to the rest of them. Finding Dory, a sequel we didn't need, but a sequel we wanted, and just full of fucking heart. Moana, proving once again for like 7 years in a row that Disney is outdoing Pixar, and with the best singing princess, I think, thus far. Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Exactly the movie we needed it to be. Snowden. Joseph Gordon-Levitt at his best with a little extra drama thrown in there, but the content nonetheless as realistic as it needs to be taken. Zootopia. Disney gave Pixar the 1-2 punch this year with 2 films better than Pixar's movie. Even though they were all good, Zootopia was just the best one. Arrival. A fantastic under-the-radar film that not many people heard about until it was out, and without a doubt the most realistic portrayal of what would happen during a first contact in any movie in history by light years. The Little Prince, based off of one of the best-known children's books of all time, and one of the movies that I think all kids and especially adults need to see. La La Land. It truly is impressive that this movie was even made, and especially with the 2 leading people that we had, made it stand out and actually also told just a great story about love and following your dreams. Hacksaw Ridge, the best and most accurate war movie since Saving Private Ryan, and yes, it does deserve that. Anyways, those are my 38 movies that I saw over the past year. Obviously not many of them were nominated for Best Picture, but overall, I think it was a relatively weak year, but with every year when it comes to any sort of media, there's always going to be a ton of really good ones. Let me know what you thought about the past year in movies, and let's look forward to what we can see in 2017.